Modesto Downtown Plaza, 1010 10th Street. This water structure will help us tell our story. A bird flying over Stanislaus County sees the great Central Valley in the middle, the foothills of the Sierra Nevada on the east, and the coastal range on the west. Each of these three very different life zones contains many smaller habitats that attract and support an extraordinary number of different kinds or species of birds. Merced County, just to the south, is similar geographically and therefore bird-wise. In the course of a year, many species of birds fly into, out of, and through these counties, and many stay here all year long. In the next hour or so, we will take you to the right place at the right time to experience this treasure hunt of local birds. As we go on our journey, keep in mind three things: learning what to look for, learning where to look, and learning when to look. So now let's take an example of all three. As we page through Sibley's Guide to the Birds of Western North America, which has all the birds in our area and then some, the picture of the western tanager strikes our eye, and we set out to find it. What to look for is easy, since it's the only bird in our area that's yellow with a red head. As to when to look, the book shows the range map of the western tanager with yellow in our area, meaning migration. The orange north and east of us is its summer range, and the blue south of us where it spends the winter. This local bird guide is even better since it gives us more local and exact information. We see that the western tanager is rare outside of spring and fall migration, but during those times it is fairly common here. The local guide also shows us where to look. The R and W indicate that its habitat locally is riparian, or woodland areas. So if you spend a morning in May or September looking for this bird along Dry Creek in Modesto, for example, you should see it. Ah, here it is. It's all a matter of knowing what to look for, when, and where. Knowing these three, you can consistently beat the odds against you in this treasure hunt of nature. What we have done with the western tanager, you can repeat for all the birds that you could see in this area. The local guide shows us that there are about 300 species that can be seen in Stanislaus County. However, about 100 are rare, signified by the dotted line. Therefore, as a beginner, your search can be among the 200 regular local species. To distinguish one bird from the other is not as hard as it might seem. For example, if you look at this stunning wood duck, you might be dismayed by so many colors and patterns. However, with the wood duck, as with practically all birds, you need to know only a few marks to distinguish it from all the rest. For example, this wood duck is the only duck in the county where the feathers form a helmet. All you need to look for is a duck with a helmet, and you have identified a wood duck. Now that you have some idea about what to look for, where and when, let's get out and do it. You can begin in your own backyard. Local urban areas with their trees and bushes actually attract more bird species than farms or ranches. We refer to birds that are here all year long as residents. Like this Anna's hummingbird. This male has brilliant pink on both head and chin. And even the female has some pink in the throat. Watch your backyard closely in the spring and summer, and you may find one on its nest. The western scrub jay is also resident in your backyard. Blue above and light below, it is distinguished from other local bluebirds by its large size. It likes acorns and remembers where it hides thousands of them. Fortunately, it also leaves some buried acorns to sprout into trees. Don't look for a blue jay around here, though, because there isn't one within 1,000 miles. Many birds fit into groups or families like these ducks. If you know one member of the family, it is easier to learn the rest. Also, from your general knowledge, you probably already know many bird groups, such as hawks, owls, woodpeckers, etc. But you will also want to learn some new bird families like the conebill family that includes sparrows and finches. They have bills that are wide but relatively short and look like a cone. You will find several of this family right in your backyard, like this golden-crowned sparrow with a cone bill and a little yellow on the top of its head. This house finch is unmistakable because of its red head, cone bill, and brown stripes on its side. The American goldfinch is small, about 5 inches, and has yellow upper and lower parts and a cone bill. The lesser goldfinch is similar, but smaller, 4.5 inches, and has yellow lower and darker upper parts. You will note that some females and immatures look a little different. Also, some birds have different feathers at one time of the year than other times of the year. But we will leave all of that for a more advanced class. Right now, the important thing is not to know all of the birds, but to be able to identify the males, which are more boldly marked and easier to learn. The winter also brings to your backyard white-crowned sparrows, cone-billed birds with white stripes on the head. Also in the winter, we have dark-eyed juncos, a small, plain bird with a cone bill and dark hood. Some birds are often heard, but not seen, like this pair of great horned owls talking to one another in the trees between backyards. The call is unique and easy to learn. All birds can be distinguished by sound alone. The cold weather also brings the cedar waxwings into your backyard. Distinctively beautiful, with a crest, a mask, and a bright yellow tail tip. The males and females are the same in this species. Here, two mates exchange a morsel of food, but we don't know which gender is flirting. You might occasionally see a mammal, like this squirrel, in your backyard. But even that is hard to do. It is much more satisfying to watch nature if you are watching birds, because they are numerous and easy to see. Warblers are another family that you need to learn. They are about 5 inches long, with medium length and medium wide bills. Our most common warbler is a yellow rumped warbler. It is pretty much grayish, but has yellow on its throat and on both sides, but especially on its rump. It is present in very large numbers in this area in the winter. But you will never identify this common beauty until you know what you are looking for. Then you will see it all winter long in your backyard and almost everywhere else. Black phoebes are here all year long. They are the most common local member of the flycatcher family. Medium-sized birds with a distinctive pointed head and a habit of sitting on an open perch to look for insects. Black phoebes are distinguished by the crisp black and white pattern, reminiscent of someone wearing a tuxedo. They like to be around water and are common in backyards because they like to be around swimming pools and backyard fountains and baths. Now let's get out of our backyard and out into the country. As the year begins, it is winter, and a good place to explore at this time of the year is the eastern side of Stanislaus County, running along the county line with Tuolumne County. We will begin at Woodward Reservoir and go toward LaGrange. The habitat is rolling grasslands, blue oak savanna, and a few lakes. Each region of the county has birds most likely to be seen only there. So we will be looking for the species that favor these areas. These bald eagles, with their white heads and tail and black body, play a deadly game of hide and seek with ducks in the winter at Woodward Reservoir. As we head south, we look for the grassland species. A western meadowlark has bright yellow underparts and a bold stripe through the throat. This is a Say's phoebe, another in the flycatcher family, like the black phoebe, who pops up for comparison. The Say's phoebe is brown above and rusty below. But its most distinctive feature is the behavior of half-stalled flight over the grasslands. Many birds can be identified, at least partly by distinctive behavior. Horned larks are common in the grasslands. They have a yellow face and a black cap, mask, and necklace. Occasionally, you might see the burrowing owl, the only ground-dwelling owl in the area. This one has taken over a ground squirrel burrow. The red-tailed hawk is identified by its red tail, but all red-tailed hawks don't have it, or it can't be seen. In flight, it is better to rely on the dark stripe on the wing, extending out from the shoulder. When it is sitting, look for the faint belly band and dark head, more pronounced on immature birds. The grasslands also attract wintering ferruginous hawks, often perching on the ground. Slightly bigger than a red-tailed hawk, the ferruginous has a light-colored head, white underparts, and a white tail. The American kestrel is a small raptor, only 11 inches long. It is our only small raptor with a rusty back. The merlin is also a small raptor like the kestrel, but it's more rare and has a plain grayish back. Its main prey are other small birds in the grasslands. The southeastern part of Stanislaus County is mostly covered with large stands of blue oak. The western bluebird, blue on the top and rusty on the bottom, is common in the blue oaks. But while the blue oak isn't blue, the bluebird really is. The Lewis's woodpecker, our only pink-breasted woodpecker, is a refugee of the Sierra winter and just barely comes into our counties. It was named for and by Meriwether Lewis of Lewis and Clark fame. It will head back up to the Sierra with the warmth of spring. A good place to bird in the spring is Del Puerto Canyon Road, which runs out of the city of Patterson up to the county line in the coastal range at 2,400 feet. It begins in rolling grasslands, runs through blue oak, then woodland, and finally into chaparral at the top. Also, a remnant of riparian forest runs along the creek all the way up the canyon. Each area is distinct and rich in birds. The western kingbird, a flycatcher with a gray back and lemon breast, flies in the spring in great numbers toward the bottom of the canyon. The canyon is in the rain shadow of the coastal range and is the driest part of our area, attracting desert birds like this greater roadrunner. It is slender, nearly 2 feet long, and is almost always seen running. The phainopepla, another desert bird, is jet black with a distinct crest. It is not common, but when seen is usually near mistletoe. You can see white on its wings when it flies. Another desert specialist in the canyon is Costa's hummingbird with its outrageous purple mustache. Del Puerto Canyon is also a good place to see spring wildflowers. Anywhere in the canyon, you might see the golden eagle, a huge dark brown raptor with a golden head. The eagle can be confused with the turkey vulture, since both are all dark. But the vulture is smaller, flies in a V shape with jerky movements, and has bicolored wings. When sitting, its red head marks it, for better or worse. The raven, the world's smartest bird, is larger than a crow and has a bigger bill. Its tail is large and pointed and flares out when it flies. It typically soars with its buddies. The yellow-billed magpie is distinguished by its long tail and yellow bill. It has never been seen outside of California. In the riparian forest, we find another tropical migrant, Bullock's oriole. Its brilliant orange color is unique. This coyote finds a home in all the habitats up and down the canyon. Lawrence's goldfinch, with its black head and chin, has a limited west coast range that barely comes into our county in the canyon. Here we can compare the Lawrence's to the American goldfinch, which has a plain face and is yellow all over. This orange-crowned warbler is drab olive-colored and is featureless except for a broken eye ring. It is resident in the canyon. But this Wilson's warbler, yellow with a black cap, is just migrating through in the spring. This yellow-breasted chat, with its white Harry Potter glasses and its very yellow underparts, is easier heard than seen. Coming from Central America, it's making its nest this spring in the forest along the creek. In the pine trees, we have red-breasted sapsuckers. Our only woodpecker with an all-red head. It harvests bugs and sap from rows of holes that it digs in the tree. The chaparral at the highest part of the canyon gives a number of birds a habitat where they can stay well hidden. This blue-gray gnatcatcher, a small, very gray bird with long black tail and bold eye ring, is always very active and alert. The California quail is the only medium-sized ground bird in the area and usually remains hidden. The wild turkey is the large ground bird in our area. It likes a good place to hide, but needs open space to forage as well. By the end of spring, many species from the tropics have settled in, like this black-chinned hummingbird. The female has a pure white throat. It is now summer. We head to the cool, shaded riparian forest in parks along Dry Creek in Modesto. The best time to bird is early in the morning. While you are birding, you might also get a chance to see something like this gray fox, which is mostly nocturnal. Small birds have good reason to be wary of the Cooper's hawk, distinguished by the thin, brown, rusty barring of its breast and its very long tail. It is the terror of the skies. This Cooper's hawk is eating a bush tit. They are very small, 4.5 inches, with a long, thin tail and plump body, making them look like lollipops. They try to avoid their enemies by never being far from the safety of the crowd and always chattering to one another as they feed in the protection of the dense branches. So don't be surprised if birds are cautious about a human being. They have good reason to be afraid. Big things that move around are dangerous. So being quiet, avoiding rapid movements, and keeping your distance will help get a good view at a bird. Woodpeckers need the dead trees and limbs in the park to feed and nest. This acorn woodpecker, known by its white cheeks and red head, also uses the dead limbs to store acorns. The northern flicker is brown with a black necklace. A Nuttall's woodpecker is easily distinguished by its barred white and black back. Lines running with the length of the bird are called stripes. The ones running the other way are called bars. Males have red heads, but females do not. This white-breasted nuthatch looks something like a woodpecker, but isn't because it doesn't have the stiff tail to grasp a vertical tree. But it has a distinctive shape and pattern and sounds like a toy horn. This black-headed grosbeak flies in from Mexico to breed in the riparian forest. It has a distinctive black and cinnamon pattern and a huge beak. It fills the forest with song. The ash-throated flycatcher is a common summer visitor from the tropics. It has the flycatcher shape, is brown above and lemon below, and has a rusty patch on the wings. This one is a little late on its nest building. It will need to rush to finish all its work by summer's end. The autumn is a good time to visit our magnificent national wildlife refuges. The San Joaquin River National Wildlife Refuge was created in 1987, primarily to save the endangered Aleutian cackling goose, which was down to about 250 pairs. Most of the geese you see flying in from the northwest in October and November have flown over 3,000 miles non-stop from Bull Deer Island in the Aleutian chain in Alaska to near this viewing platform at the end of Beckwith Road, 8 miles due west of Modesto. Almost all of the now over 100,000 Aleutian cackling geese spend the winter in Stanislaus County. Very few places in the world can so rightfully claim one whole bird population. Aleutian cackling geese have white chin straps like their larger cousin, the Canada goose. But it is much smaller and has a distinctive white band on the lower neck. On the way south from the refuge, we cross the San Joaquin River and encounter an osprey, a raptor with a black stripe running down both sides of its face and neck. It eats mostly fish. Continuing south, we come to the southern entrance of the wildlife refuge on Dairy Road. From the parking lot, you can take a 4-mile loop through the most diverse birding in the county, including grasslands, seasonal wetlands, riparian forests, oak woodlands, and lakes. In the open woodlands, we find this brown-headed cowbird, a member of the blackbird family. Cowbird's ancient pattern was to follow herds of large grazing animals such as elk or bison. Now they follow cows. Since they have to always be on the move, they cannot stay near their nests, so they lay their eggs in other birds' nests and let them do the work. But since the cowbird's trick doesn't usually work, a female is busy laying up to 40 eggs per summer. This keeps these males busy as well. Cowbirds usually are found in open country with small trees. Cowbirds won't penetrate more dense forest to get to other birds' nests. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has planted thousands of acres of trees on the refuge to provide dense forest to protect the other birds from the cowbirds. Their cousin, Brewer's blackbirds, are all black with blue sheen, and they like a similar habitat. Yellow-headed blackbirds are uncommon and like reed beds. The same for red-winged blackbirds. Tricolor blackbirds have a little white patch and like a variety of refuge habitats. They have a very small range, almost all in California. Their numbers have dropped alarmingly to between 1 and 200,000, so recovery steps are being taken. White pelicans are often seen on the refuge. Their 9-foot wingspan, social soaring behavior, and black and white wings distinguish them from the ground. In the fall, the forested areas occasionally have Pacific slope flycatchers. It is a small flycatcher with an elliptical eye ring, a pure migrant, only flying through in spring and fall. Another pure migrant, the willow flycatcher, is very similar, but does not have an eye ring. These American avocets and a black-necked stilt, each with distinctive black and white patterns, dispute this piece of shallow water. The white-faced ibis is dark all over with a long, thick, curved bill. Over the open woodlands, we find white-tail kites, white raptors with black wingtips and a habit of stalling in flight to remain motionless to spot prey. Along the wetland shores, we find the song sparrow, the only sparrow with boldly striped underparts and upper parts. This one is systematically making small white pieces of food on the water disappear one by one. Now we head south. As we cross the Tuolumne River, we stop to see the salmon migrating upstream. Still in the autumn, we arrive at the Merced National Wildlife Refuge, about 10 miles southwest of Merced. It is the best wetlands area nearby. Huge numbers of snow geese and the smaller Ross's goose arrive in the autumn and spend the winter here. They are distinguished by their white color. Other geese, like these greater white-fronted geese with their white faces, also congregate here in the fall. When flocks arise suddenly like this, look to see why. It will often be a raptor, like this peregrine falcon. It has a dark helmet extending down both cheeks and bold aviator goggles. It is the fastest thing alive, exceeding 200 miles per hour in its lethal dives, but not being fast enough to catch this mosquito. Ducks and huge numbers of other winter birds also find winter refuge here. One good thing about ducks is that once seen, they will usually sit and can be seen and studied easily, like this mallard with a green head and yellow bill. American coots abound, with their black bodies and white bills. The northern pintail has a white stripe up its neck. The three kinds of white egrets are here all year long. The great egret has a large yellow bill, and the cattle egret is smaller, with a shorter yellow bill. The snowy egret has a black bill. This one is herding minnows with a foot shuffle. Sandhill cranes fly in the autumn, some coming from as far as Siberia. They are huge, grayish-brown, and have red on the top of their head. They are constantly calling to one another with a voice that can be readily heard over a mile away, particularly in flight. Over the grasslands, a northern harrier with a distinctive white rump hunts by flying very low and hoping to surprise its prey. Shorebirds tend to all look alike. To sort them out, you begin with size. You'll see there are 3 different sizes here. That means there are at least 3 different species, because birds of one species are all the same size once they leave the nest. But the killdeer is an easy shorebird to identify with its 2 neck rings. The semi-palmated plover is similar, but has only 1 ring and is much smaller. In the reed beds, we find a marsh wren, distinguished by its long, curved bill and striped upper back. Why the secretive common yellowthroat, another reed bed skulker, is so boldly marked is a mystery of nature. So here we are, back at the Modesto downtown plaza. Far from the plains of Africa or the Galapagos or the Amazon, places where you can see spectacular natural beauty. But right here at home, nature has shown us beauty all our own.